So St. Pete is sending out emails, looking like today. Representative Peter Meredith, Missouri House, Missouri State House, from the 80th District, sending out emails regarding just some updates on the special session, Governor Mikey P's special congressional session. And I want to share just, I'm not going to get into this whole thing because it is huge. So if you're not on his email list yet, I don't know what you're doing. But I want to share with you just a brief summary of some of the stuff that he covered. Let's see what's the best way to, can we get that a little bit closer? That'll probably work, right? Maybe not. Okay. Let's see if we can zoom in just a little bit there. All right. Wow. I can even read that. All right. So inside is the tax cut bill moves forward despite hearings on staffing crisis. Sports betting, adult use of cannabis, also to get attention, real emergencies, investing in workers, preserving reproductive rights, and protecting democracy. And we'll get into some of that in just a bit. So St. Pete writes, friends, this week we're beginning to see some movement on the extraordinary session called by the governor to pass tax cuts. The Senate Republicans appear poised to reach an agreement on a tax cut package similar to the governor's proposal, all while we have committee hearings about the staffing crisis in the Department of Mental Health, and among all, ours being the lowest paid in the country. The GOP, and this is some of the same stuff that they were debating on in the last session. Didn't quite get it all worked out, I guess, the way the Mikey P wanted it to. You remember that. That was when Representative Roden basically said that since a third of Missouri workers and everyone in the state of Missouri on Social Security doesn't pay taxes, that's 1/3 of Missouri workers do not make enough to pay taxes, and everybody on Social Security, because you fucking dirtbags don't actually pay into the system, you don't deserve nothing. It's not made for you. You're not in the club. You don't get nothing. You don't get a free ride. You work your ass off. You make it 40 hours a week. You're busting your fucking hump to pay your landlord. And the government's like, meh. Good luck calling food stamps on a Monday, right? Hey, anybody out there on FSD, you already know what I'm talking about. With your EBT cards, it's a whole different world out there for folks who are legit struggling in the state of Missouri. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, go outside and touch fucking grass, okay? I'm just saying. This week, we're beginning to see more movement. Extraordinary session called by the governor to propose tax cuts. We already went through that. The GOP seems to want to spend our temporary unprecedented budget surplus, largely thanks to the one-time federal spending, and largely thanks to the fact that Governor Mike Parson withheld all those funds from all of those things, like unemployed workers and hospitals and what the fuck ever. On a permanent tax cut in revenue, rather than investing in our state workers, our teachers, our schools, our roads, our bridges, or any of that underfunded institutions and infrastructure that everybody in the opposing side bitches about. He didn't include that. That's just my part. But 100%. We have that money because he withheld it from institutions that needed it or that were supposed to be guaranteed it, and it was his responsibility to get that cash out there. Also, they were supposed to be funding folks, who have been dealing with the COVID situation for the last 2 years. They had the SAFER program for folks who weren't able to make their, ends meet because they were either unemployed or still finding employment or just working shit out. They basically made it impossible, thanks to Elad Gross for disseminating a whole ass ton of information on how to do that, because the governor took his sweet ass time to unveil the project. And then this year, they offered an extension that nobody even knew about. That if you called the number to get the extension for SAFER, which is the program for basically paying your rent if you're fucked, the employees on the other end of the line were like, I don't know how this shit works. Yeah, they offered a 6-month extension that the people who you were supposed to be calling did not know how it worked. You tell me why this is a thing or how this could even be a thing. This is why they got the surplus. You want to know why they got the unprecedented surplus? That's why. Fucking cronyism. And the governor, Mike Parson, wants to give this money to farmers, like Jason Smith or Eric Schmidt or Graves Garrett LLC, the millionaire lobbyist law firm that also consider themselves farmers. I'm a fucking farmer. I got 2 pots of spring onion right now. I guarantee I'm growing more crops than any of those assholes. I'm just saying. That's an assumption. I don't know. I'm not really checking their backyards, and I want them to stay the fuck out of mine. That's where my libertarian straw drops. But let's take a look here. So St. Pete talking about tax cuts for the rich instead of paying workers and teachers and folks who already work but are down on their luck. That's real. Talk about a nice metaphor for the state, our government. This week we scramble a month late for a special session to lower taxes in a chamber under delayed construction while we fail to fund basic government services. Yeah, that's and there it is. Glorious. Click, 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 click. That's Missouri for you folks. This is what they have to show me. Breaking down the tax cut. Is a tax cut an emergency? The only emergency in an election is an election coming up, and the Republicans are looking for distraction from all the reasons voters are mad at them right now. Radical attacks on reproductive health care and bans on contraceptives, underfunded schools with the lowest paid teachers in the country, and 4-day school weeks, lowest paid state workers in the country with the longest Medicaid wait times, and so on and on. Tax cuts are the Republican go-to soundbite to try to unify their voters after 50 years of messaging about how all tax cuts are good, even though they're actually a terrible idea. Is this fiscally responsible? I'm not even going to fucking wait for St. Pete's answer. No. They should be giving that money to all of those people who pissed me off last year with the United Across Missouri thing, because you know what? They're actually struggling out there. Hey. I can be a realist too. It's extremely irresponsible, St. Pete says. This could kill our budget in the future years. Sure, we have a big surplus right now, so spend, right? But revenue is strong thanks to extremely unique circumstances like huge federal spending, pretty major economic shift toward higher wages and cost of goods. Those circumstances, though, also mean we need significant budget increases just to keep up with inflation, rising wages. And that's just to maintain our place at the bottom of worker pay, teacher pay, school funding, transportation funding, etc. Again, same thing with the puppy mills. Exceeding expectations of shit. Again, why we have more women running, at least to my recollection, than I've ever seen, and they're mostly running on a campaign of anti-corruption. How much do we need to keep up with inflation and wage growth? Honestly, only time will tell. But last year, the inflation was 8.5%, meaning that even the 5% pay increases we had to fight hard to get past end up looking more like a pay cuts after adjusting for inflation. Right. You tell me. And it's global, folks. It's worldwide. I mean, Jesus Christ. Get into economics here for you. Our total state budget, including Fed dollars, is just under $50 billion. Our surplus was just under $5 billion, around 10% of the total budget, meaning just barely enough to keep up with inflation alone, let alone scrape out of the bottom of states in funding for our schools, teachers, workers, roads, healthcare systems. And that's if we assume the high revenue will this high revenue will continue if the economy turns or Fed spending slows. Which again, look into the Fed here for disappointment. Didn't Kansas do something like this? Remember the Brownback experiment in Kansas? A couple good revenue years. They decided to slash income taxes for the wealthy. A few years later, the economy shifted and they found themselves in a massive hole. Even Republicans regretted and undid it a few years later. And in Missouri, we can't just undo it when the legislature wakes up to the problem. Our Constitution makes it much harder to raise taxes back again. Can't imagine why. But don't folks need tax relief right now? Okay, let's say tax relief is how we help folks struggling with rising costs. Why then a permanent income tax that really doesn't do anything for the economy or for working families? Again, a third of Missouri workers are not affected by this at all. They don't pay into the system. Folks on a fixed income. I'd support a one-time rebate or stimulus payment for everyone because they're already going to get a shit ton of money. You're not going to stop Johnny Morris from getting a tax break on this. So you might as well give him a stimulus check and then give your boy Chainsaw a stimulus check, because I'm fucking starving over here. I'm just saying, it's rough. All right, fuck. Yeah, I got this. I got this suit from a dumpster at Dick's. Don't kid yourself. All right. So I'd support a one-time rebate or stimulus payment for everyone, especially if it's capped, so millionaires don't get it. Okay, so he's not trying to pay Johnny Morris. Great, because the other guys totally are. Heck, call it a gas rebate. There we go. Now, I'd support a sales tax holiday for the year to directly counter inflation, or even a permanent sales tax reduction. Hey, cut taxes. And GOP get in on that? I've long supported exempting groceries and necessities from sales taxes, because honestly, I've only lived in one state that makes you pay taxes on fucking food. You fucking cave people. What is wrong with the state of Missouri already? Taxes on food. Get the fuck out of here. Taxes on a bag of lettuce, you fucking cheap fucks. I'd also support legalizing marijuana and sports betting, raising tobacco tax, obviously, if they want to balance out a tax cut elsewhere. Well, that sounds like libertarian policy, right? But income tax cuts, by definition, mostly benefit people with higher incomes. Percentage based, right? Meaning those doing the best right now with the least need for relief. Who would benefit from this? Very simple. This is an expensive, permanent giveaway, mostly to the wealthy. So making $1 million a year gets $6,000 from this. They barely notice that, but it'll cost us a lot. Most middle-income families will get maybe a couple of bucks a week. Again, not game-changing relief in any way. Almost a third of folks, those that make the least, as your boy Chainsaw already fucking said, won't get a penny from this. That's seniors on fixed incomes, essential workers in low-wage jobs, the folks hurt the most by rising costs. Getting no relief whatsoever in this emergency. Right. So we're talking about the rising cost of eggs. Mike Parsons says, fuck you, grow legs. Will this tax cut generate economic growth? No. Oh, he also says, nonsense. Nobody's going to move to our state or expand a new business because our income tax is 4.8% instead of 5.3%. We've had repeated tax cuts for the past 20 years, and our state's growth has lagged behind our neighbors, not grown, especially if, as a result, our schools are underfunded, state services abysmal, and roads and bridges are deteriorating. You grow the population and economy by investing in a stronger infrastructure, a well-educated workforce, social investments like schools, parks, museums, to make people want to live here, not an income tax cut that'll actually strip money from the state that could have been invested in these things. And I can already tell you, look at all the small towns in southern Missouri where they used to have 2 grocery stores. Now they got 1 grocery stores. Weird. Final verdict, no thanks. And we want tax relief for people struggling from rising costs of gas, groceries, or housing. We should do something that actually benefits those that need it and the economy. A caveat, all that said, Republicans are salivating at the prospect of a tax cut with our surplus. They've been campaigning on tax cuts and slashing government budgets for their entire careers, and now is their best chance yet. The tax cuts in the governor's proposal are already in statute and likely happening over the time anyway, though at least only if and when repeated years of growth trigger each step down. Now, this would just skip those triggers and assume one great year means we can afford it. That's irresponsible, to be sure, but a lot of the conservatives in office want to go dramatically further. Now, many would abolish income taxes and corporate taxes altogether and have no problem defunding Medicaid, which we just got available just now. Public education and higher education entirely. If we get out of this with just removing the triggers on those tax cuts, that could be a lot better than letting Republicans have a field day with a variety of other dangerous proposals out there. Well, we'll get to that. Thankfully, there's still moderate Republicans that'll hopefully join the Dems in seeking some restraint on any tax cuts, and who know that funding increases are coming and necessary for the things Missourians care about. So we may be seeing another infra-party fight happening between the moderates and the absolute crazies. Maybe Dems will be able to use that fight to kill any irresponsible tax cuts from happening at all, or to sneak in some better options. But if there's one thing that tends to unify Republicans, it's passing tax cuts. So we shall see how this develops in the next couple of weeks. And another point to make, and something to keep in mind for just the normies out there, is that while they're salivating over this blowed up fucking budget surplus, where'd it come from? Oh yeah, it came from all of that big government money that was sent to states, sent to this state in particular by the same stimulus checks that they've been bitching and screaming about since 2020 or 2021. So don't let them fool you. Don't let them fool you. Don't let them lie to you whenever they start screaming and kicking about inflation, and they start screaming and kicking about big government spending with the stimulus and the all these programs and government subsidies. Shit, when they start screaming and bitching and crying around about ESG, don't forget how they ended up with all this extra cash in their surplus pockets. So anyway, put that in your pipe and smoke it. We're gonna take a short break, jump right back into it.